Hi friends, so as we continue looking at your purpose in life and how you can grow and see maturity throughout your life, we're going to be looking at part 2. The first part was self-assessment. Part 2 is knowing where you're going. And this is a really fun exercise. I used to think that it had to be something really big. You have to have big vision in order to make this worthwhile. Huge goals, 10-year, 20-year plans, or even by the time I'm 50, I want to, have done all these things. But it's actually a lot simpler than that, and it can grow, right? Each year you can add things to it. We're going to break this down and just look at how you can know where you're going. The first part of this is looking at what are your responsibilities. So remember, in the self-assessment you wrote down who you are, right? You answered that question, who are you? And here you're going to be looking at those roles and ask yourself, what is required by God within this role? So if you are a wife, then you have certain requirements. And if you're a mom, there are certain requirements. Husbands, fathers, employees, employers, all those roles have clear expectations that we can find in Scripture. And if you're wondering where to go for those, read through Proverbs, read through Ephesians, Proverbs 31 obviously for women, but throughout Scripture you will find those things that God expects us within our roles. And sometimes you can go to it's not always going to be, if you're in this, do this. Sometimes it's through example. So we have the example of the kings and what you should do, and we can equate that to an employer. Here's the way that you oversee a company or a kingdom. There are biblical examples for mothers and wives, and we can gather those responsibilities through the example of our biblical forefathers. Go through and start listing out the requirements within those roles. And I actually did this exercise for myself. So my responsibilities included making healthy meals for my family, taking care of my kids' education, cleaning my home, providing entertainment. It's not something that we always think of, but having quality entertainment in our home, whether it's reading, games, things that we can do as a family, just how people fill their time. I realized it was something that felt to me. Training, so identifying areas of weakness in my kids and then training them in those areas, whether it's life skills or communication or relational things. Hygiene, making sure that my kids were clean and clothed, physical fitness, mental and emotional needs, meeting the mental and emotional needs of my family. Finances, and even though that's not a biblical requirement for my role as a wife, it's something that my husband relies on me for, and as his helpmeet, that's something that I can do for him. So things that are required by God in your role, and also the things that others just rely on you for, that you are equipped and gifted in. And then the things that you're paid for. So if you are an employee or someone's paying you to do certain things, what are the responsibilities and expectations that they have of you? And it's good to get really clear on this, because sometimes you can put too much into something, more than what we're getting paid for. So it's good to be really clear on, these are my responsibilities and the expectations and what I am getting paid for, so that you don't take away time from your other responsibilities. Once you've done that and you've come up with all the different responsibilities for the different roles that you fill, come up with what it looks like to do a good job in those things. Healthy meals, what does that look like? Taking care of finances, what does that look like? What are the requirements to do a good job? What you could also do is kind of group these into different areas of your life. So for me, I grouped them into my kids' education. I wanted it to be regular, engaging, and biblical. So those were 3 keywords that I came up with for education. 3 keywords for my work as an employee, 3 words for my home. I want it to be organized, clean, and comfortable. Even for my style. So this was an area of frustration, discouragement for me, was not having things to wear. We'd get invited to a special occasion, I looked in my closet and I had nothing appropriate. This was a frustration for me, a pain point, and I wanted to improve in that, to where my style, my outfits were dependable, easy, attractive. And then meals, I want them to be healthy, regular, and satisfying. So I came up with just kind of keywords for those different areas. If it's more helpful, you could write out a whole phrase or a more measurable goal. Like, what does regular mean? Is that 5 times a week that you sit down and you're eating together, and 2 times a week that you're eating out or ordering food? What does that look like to you? And then you have some sort of measurement there that can can be helpful. So this is your rubric, and it's starting off with what are God's requirements for you. When you look at your scorecard, you may have had a lot of things in there that you were assessing yourself on that were expectations of others, expectations that you put on yourself. And so when we get to part 3, you're going to be matching those up, and you're going to be looking at what was I measuring myself on that were not requirements of God, and then what requirements and within the roles that I've been given have I actually been failing at, and how can I make improvement in those areas. So this is your rubric. This is what you're shooting for, and obviously each year you can improve and change your keywords as you reach certain goals, or you start focusing on other areas of your life. But this is a good place to start, and hopefully a good place for you to start seeing growth and maturity.